Anthropic made Claude more usable today with Opus 4.8, promised something bigger next with Mythos-class models, and priced itself like a near-trillion-dollar infrastructure company that now has to prove the capital story inside real workflows. For builders, buyers, and operators, the reason to keep watching is simple. Opus 4.8 is something you can test now, Mythos is something you should not yet treat as available, and the $965 billion frame only matters if all that money turns into product value you can trust. Put two proof objects on screen first. Anthropic's Opus 4.8 page and Anthropic Series H funding page, both dated May 28, 2026. The Opus page is the live product proof. The funding page is the capacity and expectation proof. Keeping those pages side by side matters because this story is not just a model launch and not just a private company valuation. It is a live versus spending test of Claude. What can be evaluated today, what still needs safeguards, and what Anthropic has to deliver for the valuation to become more than pressure. The confirmed product fact is that Claude Opus 4.8 is available today. Anthropic lists the API model name as Claude Opus 4.8, regular API pricing at $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens, and fast mode at $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. Those numbers are not trivia. They tell teams where to start an eval. If you run coding agents, document review, research workflows, support automation, or higher stakes reasoning tasks, Opus 4.8 is the part that belongs in the test harness now. The mistake would be treating the Mythos promise the same way. Anthropic says Mythos-class models are expected to reach all customers in the coming weeks after stronger cyber safeguards. That is meaningful guidance, but it is not general availability today. No buyer should make a customer promise that depends on Mythos until public access, pricing or usage terms, and safety detail are visible. The better move is to prepare the eval set now. Define the tasks where a stronger model would change the roadmap, define the failure modes that would block rollout, and wait for proof before changing production commitments. That makes the funding frame important. Anthropic announced a $65 billion Series H at a $965 billion post-money valuation. That valuation does not prove Claude is better, and it is not public market value. It is investor pricing around a private company, and the consequence is a much higher proof bar. Anthropic also says run rate revenue crossed $47 billion earlier in May 2026, and says the funding is expected to support safety and interpretability research, compute expansion, product scaling, and partnerships. It also says the round includes $15 billion of previously committed hyperscaler investments, including $5 billion from Amazon, and cites new capacity agreements with Amazon, Google/Broadcom, and SpaceX. The reason those details belong in the product story is that Claude demand only becomes useful to customers if capacity shows up as access, latency, reliability, and support terms. For builders, the immediate question is model routing. I would not send every request to the most expensive Claude path just because Opus 4.8 is live. Route routine classification, formatting, simple summarization, and low-risk drafts to cheaper paths. Put Opus 4.8 on the work where deeper reasoning might actually pay. Complex repo changes, multi-step analysis, long context planning, review tasks where mistakes are costly, and support cases where a bad answer creates an expensive escalation. Then measure pass rate, retry rate, latency, cost per successful task, and failure modes. If Opus 4.8 wins only in specific lanes and the economics work there, that is a usable product finding. If it looks impressive but turns unit economics upside down, the capital story has not solved the buyer problem. For operators and AI buyers, the trial needs to look like production. A premium model can feel strong in a demo and still be difficult to run if availability is uneven, latency moves around, safety requirements are not clear enough for policy and legal review, or repeated agent calls turn one user action into a large bill. The funding is supposed to help with compute and scaling, but the proof object is not a headline. It is whether peak period access improves, whether rate limits and enterprise terms become easier to depend on, whether safety and interpretability detail is usable by security teams, and whether real teams report fewer constraints when they deploy. Take a concrete product scenario, an internal coding assistant for a messy monorepo. Today, the team can add Claude Opus 4.8 to its benchmark set, run it against real bug fixes, code review tasks, and test repair work, and compare it with cheaper routes on the same tasks. The result they should care about is not just whether the model sounds better. It is whether it completes more tasks with fewer retries, less human rescue, acceptable latency, and a cost per successful task the business can defend. What they should not do is announce Mythos-powered customer features before Mythos is public and before the terms and safeguards are visible. The practical read is that Anthropic has given builders something real to test and investors a much bigger number to defend, but those are not the same thing. Opus 4.8 is the product check today. Mythos is the next promise to verify. The $965 billion valuation is pressure, not proof. What would change my mind from cautious to aggressive is a cluster of evidence: public Mythos access, clear pricing or usage terms, safety and system card detail around the stronger cyber safeguards, independent tests, developer reports, enterprise adoption, and compute expansion that customers actually feel as reliable availability. If those signals arrive together, Claude's near-trillion-dollar test starts to look like production value. If they do not, the number stays impressive, and the proof remains unfinished.